All right. Good morning, y'all. Please stand and let's sing together hymn number 1021 in the teal hymnal, Lean on Me. Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. So please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, if you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Good morning. Good to see everyone. Great to have you today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together, as always, to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and
Work for justice.
live justly. Welcome to each and every one of you, as always, those of you who are in the room with us, as well as the many of you who are live streaming with us, and those of you who are Zooming with us this morning. It's so good to have all of you here. I want to especially thank Peggy Eckloff for leading us in our music today. Thank you so much. For those who haven't heard, Madeline has left us. She's so. I have asked Madeline. She's got a wicked schedule, but I said, would you please, in the near future, come back and lead the music on a Sunday where we can give you a proper goodbye, because I wasn't here last week on her last Sunday, and I think we probably all want to do that. So that's the case. And I should probably say it while no, I can't grieve. Maura is with us until the end of November, and then her life has gotten busy enough that she is starting to cut some things out. So we're one of them.
I'd like it to be other things, but it's out of my control.
Yes, well, I understand. So, but anyway, we are now waiting for our next angelic voice to drop out of the heavens for us, and a devil with lightning fingers to move across the piano. So we like to be well balanced here. But we'll work that out. We shall continue. But Maura, you've been so wonderful. A major part. I know, but I'm just saying it. You want me to wait until? Okay, all right. Okay, I can take a hint. I do want to mention that our unity candle is lit here at the front of our sanctuary, something we've sadly done far too often in recent months. This is something we do when one of our members has passed away during the week. And on Monday of this past week, longtime church member Lois Packer passed away. Lois used to be extremely active, real matriarch of the church, and moved, I think, to the West Coast to be with her daughter for a few years, and then moved back a short time ago, and that's when I got to know her. Really just a kind, intelligent, enthusiastic, caring person. And I didn't get to see as much of her after COVID. She really didn't make it to church much after that at all, but I did get to see her on a couple of occasions in recent weeks, so her passing caught me by surprise. But I do want to acknowledge her light in her life, particularly in our community, by keeping our candle lit throughout the service today. And also want to remind you that we're still in the midst of our annual auction. You can go online to bid on items, and they're also printed in the back here. We're doing pretty well in moving towards our goal already, so thanks to everybody for your generosity, for those who have both donated items as well as those who have already bid on them, but it's not over yet, so please keep it up. And we will be having what has, I think, become our annual Thanksgiving potluck luncheon in November. This month it will be on November 24th, following our second service at 12:30. So for those of you who are in town and available to make it for that, please bring a dish. The turkey will be provided, and it's always a lot of fun. So put that on your calendars, if you will, please. I don't think we can start our service without also acknowledging that this is a kind of a big week for the world, for our country, for us. There's been a lot of anxiety about the outcome. Whether or not there will be an outcome this week, we don't know. But I don't know really what to say about it. Next week I'm going to say something about it, but I kind of need to know what's going to happen before I know exactly what to say. I'm sure it's going to be something about living out our values no matter what circumstances we're in. This is always and only the right choice to make. And that requires a level of stoicism. If for some reason we might end up shocked by what goes on, we need to acknowledge there are some things in our control and some things that are not in our control. And we have to focus on what we can control, whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. And there have been lots of people throughout time who have found themselves in difficult historic moments that we look back and consider what happened, but don't consider how all of those individuals managed to cope with being alive at that time. Some didn't do so well, some were not at their best, and some were. So whatever the future beholds us, I hope that we will be at our best. All right, I'm going to also, since it's the first service, before we welcome our friends on Zoom, I want to give a dog truth. I've also put together a list of several dog truths here. And some of them are so funny I just almost want to do two. So let me get my pencil here so I can mark the ones I've done. This first one is by someone named Greg Curtis. I don't know who that is. And he says, my cats inspire me daily. They inspire me to get a dog. Okay, and on a serious note, this is an anonymous one, that every day with a dog is a reminder that joy is found in the simplest things. Okay. I like to rib the cat people. I like cats too. We don't have a cat, but I try to get a cat fix every time I can. So, okay, there our friends are on Zoom. Hey, how's it going? Jeffrey, are you hosting today?
I am the host today. We have a lively crowd. So here in Kennesaw, we just had the Taste of Kennesaw Festival, and also in our neighboring town of Ackworth, there was a beer and wine festival yesterday. I went to both same day.
Wow.
Gail's doing some exciting things with Salish City Fellowship. Gail, do you want to mention that?
Well, the Salish Sea Fellowship, we have a service this afternoon at 4. Ron is actually the person that identifies our contacts, and I'll be on the what I call pulpit service or worship service in a couple of weeks. We don't meet every Sunday, but we do have a vibrant group, about 60 attendees, 40 friends, and so we're alive and well, and welcome all of you to participate on Zoom. It's not quite like this kind of Zoom, but we're going to work on that because we like the idea of having a conversation after the service, and we're all looking forward to this chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's growing.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here, and congratulations on the good work that Salish Sea is doing, and especially given that you've been around for such a short time so far. So you've been very successful, and we are glad to support you in whatever way we can. And thanks to all of our Zoomers for being with us, as always. Okay, let's take a few moments now to greet one another, whether you're here in person on Zoom or perhaps even live streaming.
I went in and muted you, Spokane.
Right. Before we light our chalice, I thought I would just mention, I just did kind of a head count. And between our friends on Zoom and those of us in the room, there are almost 40 of us. And we know that there will also be another 40 to 60 devices. We don't know how many people that'll be that are live streaming with us. And I think from every perspective, it seems like we're a small group. But if you think about everyone who's actually joining us today, and we really are together in our own ways. This is a new age. Technology is allowing us to transcend the limitations of location, having to be locked into one space in order to commune with each other. And I think that that's only going to get better as the technology improves. But for now, when you see the empty chairs, whether you're here in the room or you're live streaming or looking at the cameras on Zoom, and you look out, and for whatever reason, this is always the dead zone, the area the camera gets. We can even have a full house, and they leave this spot open. I don't know why. No, yeah, nobody wants the back of their head to be seen on camera for some reason. But anyway, I was in television news for a long time, and I learned that there are people behind the camera. And so I don't have the problem that some do, recognizing that we can be communicating to an entire community. But I just wanted you to pause and think about the number of us that enjoy this service this morning and are here in whatever way suits us best. So thank you all. Glad we're not alone. So let's move forward now, Dick, if you don't mind, and we'll light our chalice. A very important start of our service is the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For our opening reflection, I offer the words of Timothy Paul Jones, professor of Christian apologetics at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, writing on the books of the Old Testament. Different communities of people who call themselves Christians use different Old Testaments. Everyone who claims to be Christian agrees about 39 of the texts in the Old Testament, but if you attended Mass in a Roman Catholic congregation this weekend, the Old Testament readings could come from a canon that includes 7 more books than the 39 in the Old Testament at the Protestant church down the street. A few blocks further down the street at a Jewish synagogue, a reader who probably doesn't believe in the resurrection of Jesus at all will be chanting a Hebrew or Aramaic text from the same Old Testament canon that the Protestants are studying in translated form. The Orthodox Church across town will be reading from an Old Testament that encompasses a total of 10 more texts than Jews or Protestants recognize. All these disparities spawn a difficult question. If people who claim to believe the Bible can't be sure about which books belong in the Old Testament, how can anyone reasonably believe what the Old Testament has to say?
Good morning. Please stand and join us in singing together. There's a river flowing in my soul, 1007 in our Till hymnal.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river my mind. There's a river flowing, there's a river flowing, there's a river flowing in my soul.
We'll now kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. And we begin, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that region of the world that are suffering from the violence going on there, as well as the people of Israel, the Palestinian people, Iranian people, Lebanese people, who are suffering from the growing violence in those regions of the world. I did not receive any other special request this week, so let's move into our usual moment of silence, during which you can name those that you might be thinking of.
John Sherritt.
Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
A melody come morning will shine, and the sun waken the meadow. Gives us moments of delight, makes a cruel world seem alright. A graceful day, the crowds they heave and flow. You can hear the engines running. The world is changing rapidly into much uncertainty. Falls, we venture out into the night and realize our dreams and shed our human plight. And so the night moves softly o'er the ground. Tiny stars like blinking eyes look down. Are they watching over us, teaching us to love and trust? Falls, we venture out into the night and realize our dreams and shed our human plight. Echoes hammering, constructing the conceits of men, unfolding, always flowing, it will never end. You must see the world as one connected whole. When we think separation, that's when greed takes hold. A mellow dew come morning will shine.
Oh, Richard, thank you so much. Wow. I think that may be the first time I've heard you perform. Amazing. Thank you. Wow. I'm sure it is, because this will be a memorable experience, so I will remember it. Excuse me just a minute. Okay, look who it is. He's back. If it is not from Noth, is that a double negative? It's not. Okay, well in this case, I think you might be right. But it doesn't matter. We're always glad to have you here with us. So how are things going on your planet these days? Better now that the war has ended? Oh, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Just to catch folks up, if you don't remember, Not is from a planet in which everyone speaks gibberish. Can you give us an example? Correct. On Earth, words have meaning. On Noth, words mean nothing and sound like this. Okay, very good. Well, that sounds kind of strange, but I understand you also never had any conflict on your planet since folks spoke gibberish. Yes, since nobody ever said anything meaningful, there were never any disagreements. At least not until I met you. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm afraid that I suggested that not go back to Noth and try to say something meaningful. And that started a war, the first in our history. Yeah, I'm really sorry. But I'm glad to hear that it's over now. And if I remember correctly, there are no weapons on Noth, so you fought a war simply by calling each other names. My own mother called me a... Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say about that. So anyway, let's see. What am I looking for? My line here. Anyway, I'm glad it's over with now, and I suspect your mother and you are speaking again. Yes, just the morning, she said. This morning, she said. Oh, yes, okay, that sounds so similar. Okay. Anyway, what brought your war to an end? We decided to create a democracy so that our people can make decisions together rather than fighting over our differences. Wow. That's pretty impressive. That's a wonderful solution. That's why I'm here. I'm running for president of Noth, and I would like your endorsement. Well, I'm really honored. Even though I'm not supposed to endorse candidates from my pulpit, I think it wouldn't matter since you're from another planet. So, sure, I'd like to... Just a minute. Who said that? It is I, Nor from Noth. Nor from Noth. Yes, and I too am running for president and would like your endorsement. Well, this really comes as a surprise. I've known Not for a while now, but I suppose in fairness I should hear what your opposition has to say before I make my decision. Not, why don't you go first, and why do you think people should vote for you? Because Nor is a... Oh my goodness, I don't know what you just said, but that doesn't sound good. Nor, why don't you tell us why you should be president? Because Nor is a... Okay. Are either of you saying anything meaningful, or are you just calling each other names? We are just calling each other names, of course. Yes. Since we know nothing about democracy, we are following the example of American politics. Well, that's embarrassing. But, don't you think that it would be better if, instead of attacking each other, maybe you try explaining your ideas about how you're going to improve your society? That isn't calling each other names the whole point of democracy? Yeah, politicians can call each other names on behalf of everyone else. We let them do our fighting for us. Well, that's not actually the point of democracy, but I can understand why you might think it is, observing our politics as of late. So do I have your endorsement? Don't give him your endorsement. He's a... Okay, I'm afraid I can't give either of you my endorsement. I just wish that had followed the prime directive to begin with and never suggested that you start saying meaningful things on your planet. But now that you do, perhaps you should go back to your planet, both of you, and explain to voters why your ideas are best, rather than calling each other names. Maybe we can make it illegal to call each other names. That's a great idea. How'd you like to deny Vice President? Glad you agree. How'd you like to deny Vice President? Oh.
For today's meditation, I invite you into a state of repose. Make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes if you like and breathe slowly, deeply, and mindfully. And reflect on the words of Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues that you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. And if there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones.
Somewhere in this city, someone is dying right now. Somewhere in this city, someone is crying out loud. Somewhere in this city, towers are falling apart. Somewhere in this city, someone's losing their heart. Somewhere in this city, someone is taking a vow. Somewhere in this city, someone's hands are shaking right now. Somewhere in this city, hope is in the air. And somewhere in this city, someone's whispering a prayer. Somewhere in this city, someone is waiting for me. Somewhere in this city, there is some place that I'm meant to be. Somewhere in this city, someone's dreams are coming true. And somewhere in this city, I know someday mine will too. Somewhere in this city, a child is being born. Somewhere in this city, someone's going home alone. Somewhere in this city, the world is coming to an end. And somewhere in this city, it is starting all over again. Somewhere in this city, someone is waiting for me. Somewhere in this city, there is some place that I'm meant to be. Somewhere in this city, someone's dreams are coming true. And somewhere in this city, I know someday mine will too. Somewhere in this city, someone is dying right now.
Wow, amazing. And this is your original?
Yeah.
You wrote it, wow. Thank you, man, for putting those sentiments to bringing them to life in such a meaningful way. You're humble too, aren't you? It was a great song. That's a great song. If I were going to teach a course on how to be a proper Unitarian minister, which I don't think is ever going to happen, I would begin by teaching about shamanism. And this may seem like a strange comparison coming from one who claims to be a rational, modern thinker And the term shaman conjures images of primitive and superstitious persons chanting and shaking rattles and drinking ayahuasca or taking some other hallucinogenic substance. They believe in magic and spirits, and that sickness is caused by invisible darts sent by unseen forces or evil enemies. In preparation for this message, I actually tested this assumption out by prompting generative artificial intelligence with just one word, shaman. Within seconds, it created 3 images. 2 of them appeared to be primitive Chinese men with painted faces and feathers in their hair, wearing colorful homemade clothes and costume jewelry, and the third appeared to be a Native American woman dressed in a similar way. When I then prompted the AI with shaman ceremony, it quickly produced 3 more images, all of which showed a similarly dressed shaman sitting and preparing to pass around a vessel of presumably hallucinogenic tea to those gathered around them in a circle. Although generated by AI, these images are ultimately based upon our own most common associations and stereotypes, some of which are true. And even though I'm from San Francisco, I don't wear feathers in my hair or colorful clothes or chant or pass peyote around. But I still think that Unitarian ministers ought to be more like shamans than any other type of religious leaders. The notion of calling or being called to ministry is a good place to begin explaining what I mean. In most religious traditions, such a calling refers to a sense that one feels within themselves, often attributed to the deity one worships or believes in. It's an internal and personal experience. If one is serious enough to formally undergo years of formal training or study, usually in a seminary in the Christian and Jewish traditions or under the guidance of a sheikh or other recognized religious scholars in the Islamic tradition, or born into a priestly class or attending a proper seminary in the Hindu tradition, only then does one become suitable for ordination as a priest or rabbi or minister or otherwise recognized as a legitimate religious leader. With few exceptions, the right to ordain or grant such recognition belongs to the religious authorities. In Catholicism, the local diocese or archdiocese overseen by a bishop is responsible for ordaining priests, deacons, and bishops. In Eastern Orthodox churches, the local diocese or eparchy, also under the authority of a bishop, ordains priests and deacons. The bishops themselves are confirmed by the Holy Synod, a governing body of senior bishops. In the Anglican or Episcopal Church, each diocese led by a bishop is responsible for ordinations. In Presbyterianism, a body of leaders called the presbyteries examine and ordain ministerial candidates. Among Lutherans, the bishop of the synod ordains pastors, often with the involvement of a synod council. The association or conference handles ordination in the United Church of Christ, as do regional bodies in the Disciples of Christ. In Buddhism, which I've not mentioned yet, senior monks or nuns ordain new monks and nuns. And in some religious traditions, there is no formal process like ordination. Religious leaders are simply recognized as such by their communities once they have been formally approved by the religious authorities, as happens in Islam and Hinduism. The point not to be missed in all of this is that these traditions, all of these traditions, the wider community has nothing to do with ordination, the ordination of their religious leaders, and in many cases has little choice in who their religious leaders will be. They are simply sent or assigned by outside religious authorities, and however is not the case when it comes to shamans. And before I say more, it should be understood, despite the enticing title of my sermon, that there is no such thing as shamanism. Since they're North and South America, China, Tibet, Japan, Australia, Europe, Russia, and so on, dating all the way back to thousands of years. It is pronounced saman and means one who knows, referring to a person believed to have access and a mediator even between people and the spirits. In their 500-year history on the subject, shamans through time, no shamanic beliefs or cults, and therefore no shamanic religion, for the simple reason that the word does not designate a set of beliefs that manifest themselves through a set of customs. It merely affirms the existence of a certain kind of person who plays a religious and social role. This means that whatever one says about shamans cannot be considered ubiquitous of everyone with such a title. Their varieties are simply too great. Even speaking in generalities probably goes too far. Nonetheless, one of the qualities that I have read about that stuck with me in regards to some shamans is the sometimes reluctant shaman. Moses is such a figure, having tried, according to the Hebrew tale at least, to talk Yahweh out of choosing him to lead his people to the promised land. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He says. But in the end, he's given little choice. It's the same with some shamans. Becoming the spiritual leader and healer of one's community may be the last thing that one wants to do. But unlike the other religious traditions that I've mentioned, many tribal communities themselves decide who their shamans will be, and declining the invitation could get their choices killed, just as being bad at the job can. So if a community calls you to be their shaman, you better say yes, and you better learn quickly how to be as good at it as you can. In some shamanic societies, the shaman doesn't have an inner or divine calling, but a communal calling. They're called by their peers and their neighbors to be of service to others in this special and important way. They are called by a sense of duty to their neighbors rather than by spirits or by some other divine power, and they are authorized to lead by the very community they serve, not by some official body or higher religious authority who ordains them. And this is how it is, or at least is supposed to be, with Unitarianism. Our religious liberal tradition gives the local congregation the exclusive authority to call and ordain their ministers. Sadly, over time, the Unitarian Universalist Association has gotten around this by creating a ministerial fellowship committee that only welcomes those who meet its strict requirements and has created a tightly controlled gateway between ministers and congregations. Without MFC approval, never the twain shall meet. For many decades, our ministerial aspirants have believed that they must go through all the requirements this committee has laid out for them if they ever even hope to serve a congregation. And congregations have also been trained to believe that they must go through the MFC to find their ministers. Too many of us have come to think that the MFC makes a minister, not the local communities who ordain and call them. And my advice these days is for congregations and ministers to recognize this egregious affront to our religious freedoms by ignoring the MFC and creating our own ways to find each other. Local congregations should be very cautious about calling ministers who believe they work for the Unitarian Universalist Association and its Ministerial Fellowship Committee rather than the congregations that they serve and who pay their salaries. But my point is that traditionally, the calling and approval of Unitarian ministers is like that of shamans. When people ask me if I felt called to ministry, I say yes. Were you called by God? No. Was it a spiritual calling? No. Was it a feeling you had? No. I was ordained and called to ministry in the only way our liberal tradition allows, by my community. There's nothing magical or mysterious about it, nor anything that could possibly make such work more meaningful. In a 1995 essay, anthropologist Eleanor Ott says, "The situation today is that the word shaman has been usurped by popular imagination in the popular marketplace and is now superimposed on all manner of persons who bear little or no resemblance to a traditional shaman in any culture. Without a community that recognizes the new shamans as an integral part of the culture, what makes these people in fact shamans at all, except they call themselves so?" I believe the same question should be asked of today's Unitarian ministers. Without understanding it is a church community that recognizes and calls them as ministers, what makes them a minister at all except that the MFC says so? Another interesting parallel, at least between myself and shamans, which I was surprised to discover, is that we are ventriloquists. On the very first page of Shamans Through Time, we learned that when the Russians began colonizing eastern Siberia in the 17th century, they discovered certain individuals who claimed they could communicate with spirits. The shaman played drums, sang, and put on ventriloquist and trickster performances, imitating animal sounds in the dark or pretending to stab themselves with knives. When Russian revolutionary Waldemar Bogoros was exiled to Siberia in the 19th century, he encountered the Chukchi people and later wrote about them in a book entitled Doomed to Inspiration. Although beating the drum is the basic means of preparing to communicate with the spirits, Bogoros says, various tricks performed by the Chukchi shamans, including ventriloquism, have to be learned in the preparatory stage. The shamans, of course, asserted that the tricks were done by spirits and denied having had any hand whatever in the proceedings of such a character. So I'm not so good a ventriloquist that I could get away with such a fib. But the analogy also includes an entire, I should say the anthology also includes an entire essay entitled Ventriloquist and Trickster Performances for Healing and Divination. In this 1908 essay, written by another Russian exiled to Siberia, we learn of a young shaman described as imitating the howling of the wolf, the groaning of the cargoose, and the voices of other animals, his guardian spirits. He was a ventriloquist. Shamans versed in this art are believed to possess particular power. It is a funny coincidence that I also bring ventriloquism into my ministry, which probably makes me rare among Unitarian ministers. But finding that it has also long been practiced by shamans gives me a special sense of kinship with this tradition. But more important, I think, is the similar duties assigned to both shamans and Unitarian ministers. In addition to ventriloquism and drumming, shamans often chant. I don't chant any better than I sing, or keep my lips still for that matter, but my sermons are used for the same purpose. I once engaged in an ayahuasca ceremony led by a Huichol shaman who chanted the entire time that I and other participants were under the influence of the hallucinogenic tea. In the Huichol tradition from northern Mexico, such chanting is done to keep participants tethered to this world so they don't get lost in the spirit realm, so to speak, and can find their way back to the real world by following the shaman's voice as one who is able to exist in both realms. And this is the goal of my ministry too, which is why I so often emphasize reality and reason, because I believe religion is best when it helps us cope with reality, harsh as it may be, rather than as an excuse to justify our delusions. And by the way, that chant that Richard sang reminds me of this same practice. Over the years, I've often been criticized for not being spiritual by some who think it is my job to take them to the realm of spirits and myths and superstition, and to leave them there. On the contrary, my task, as far as I'm concerned, is to use my sermons as a kind of chant to keep them tethered to reality and to guide them back to reality. This is why last year I gave a sermon entitled Spiritual ? In which I said, I do not agree that reason and physical reality are barriers to finding meaning and purpose and joy and truth and wonder in life. On the contrary, they are the very processes that can bring us to our knees before the altar of life, that enable us to better cope with reality, to endure suffering, to pursue the world's mysteries and wonders, and to truly live by standing wrapped in awe. And only a few weeks ago, I gave a sermon on theology in which I ultimately defined God as reality, explaining that so much of what theologians say about God, whom I don't believe exist, is true of reality, which I not only believe exists, but believe is the only thing that does exist and can exist. Reality is everywhere, I said, and in everything, because all that exists must be real. What the priests and preachers of most religions say about God is true of reality, that we should spend our lives seeking it. Our human minds cannot comprehend the whole of reality, but when we do sometimes catch glimpses of what is real, we are awestruck and our lives and societies are transformed by the encounter. What we know of reality should be our guide. We should devote our minds and our hearts to reality and our lives to its pursuits. Finally, there is the parallel between the shaman's use of hallucinogenic compounds alone or in communal ceremonies. It is the shaman's task to enter into altered states of consciousness or to lead others into those states in order to break free from our limited or false assumptions and routine beliefs. These psychotropic journeys are meant then to expand our consciousness, not deceive it. It is believed by some, including myself, that the augmented reality that we see under their influence, I should say, are symbolic representations of realities that we cannot otherwise perceive, like microscopic or quantum realities, which explains why shamans can so often correctly diagnose illnesses without the use of a microscope or other medical equipment. Anthropologist Jeremy Narby first considered this possibility while looking at a collection of paintings by shaman Pablo Amaringo. And by the way, I have this beautiful illustrated book of this artist in my office. If you're ever interested, let me know and I'll let you browse through it. Just amazing. The beautiful paintings of his psychedelic journeys, if you will. But anyway, he looked into these and was stunned to notice double helixes in one of them. And a few weeks later, he showed it to a microbiologist who responded in the same way. Look, he said, there's collagen. And that's the axon's embryonic network with its neurites, like chromosomes at a specific phase. Those are triple helixes. And that's DNA from afar, looking like a telephone cord. There's the spread out form of DNA, and right next to it are DNA spools in the nucleosome structure. No wonder, as Narby points out, 74% of modern pharmacopoeia's plant-based remedies were first discovered in traditional societies. 74% of our medicines. And this is why my sermons are always meant to induce an alternative way of thinking about things, altered states of consciousness. I don't go into a sermon thinking I have all the answers or wishing to present myself as one who does. This is so because I consider the Unitarian version of substances like ayahuasca and peyote to be our questions. It is by questioning the things that we've been told are true or have convinced ourselves are true that puts us in altered states of mind and expands our consciousness. Questions are our gateway drug. They are our gateway to intellectual integrity and our gateway to better understanding truth and our gateway to coping with reality on its own terms. And that's why my sermons don't provide the answers of an expert, but the searching of a pilgrim who is wandering and wondering about life's perennial questions, just as you are. And I have found in my 25 years as a Unitarian minister that Unitarians don't want to leave church with more answers, but with fewer of them than when they arrived. We prefer having our minds open, not shut, curious, not closed. And this is why, rational as I am and intend to stay, I feel more akin to the shaman than to any other ministerial tradition. Although I cannot and would not wish to hand out peyote from the pulpit, nor pass around a bowl of ayahuasca, I do want you to leave church each Sunday having had your perspective skewed a little and your mind more open to new and wondrous possibilities than when you came. So as your resident shaman, called by you to serve this community, if you're feeling a bit more certain now than when you came, please take 2 questions and call me in the morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's stand together and sing I Can See Clearly Now. You can find the lyrics on the screen, or there's an insert in your order of service. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me down. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue sky.
gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Bright, bright, sunshiny day.
For our benediction, I offer the words of British Romantic poet, venturesome traveler, and English peer, Lord Byron. If I am a fool, it is at least a doubting one, and I envy no one the certainty of self-approved wisdom. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.